This is the delayed August edition of Coffee and Chat with Kate, and today we're going to be with Tere Chad and Marie Connery. So hopefully they'll be able to join up soon. And I'm doing this from Norfolk today. I am currently in my nephew's bedroom. It's the best spot for good Wi-Fi and be able to connect with everybody. So hopefully everyone can start watching and connecting. I think I've got, here we go. There's Marie. Oh, a bit slow and a bit clunky this morning. Sorry, everybody. Here we go. Hang on just 1 minute.
I think it's a bit light. I don't know, I've got too much light in the back.
Right, let's try this again. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Let's get you in. Marie, I might need you to request again for me, please.
Hello.
Oh,
hi.
Good morning. Getting up on the Wi-Fi. I thought I was being all organised and actually just needed to stay on. Sorry, but this has all worked beautifully and you're both here. Thank you so much for joining me. So I was just mentioning to everybody that this is the delayed August Coffee and Chat, and thank you both so much for being so flexible and joining today instead. Lots of people joining the chat already. If you haven't joined us for one of these before, it's an opportunity to find out about a couple of the ArtCan artists, and I sort of delve into their practices and their processes and just find out a little bit more, and then they get to throw a curveball question to me at the end, which is always really interesting and I love them. So yes, it's very gentle. It's a gorgeous way just to start the weekend and to find out a little bit more about some of our artists, because we're always so busy and I'm always so focused on programming and behind the scenes and keeping everything going that I sometimes just myself need to stop and have conversations with artists. So thank you, Marie and Tere, for joining us today. And should we get going?
Yeah.
I love it. So it's the same question to both of you, but let's start with Marie. When did you join ArtCan and why?
I joined last November. I think quite a lot of people joined last November.
It was a big intake, that one. Yeah, we actually
And the reason why is just I felt very isolated in my studio here at home, and I wanted to meet other artists and get involved with other exhibitions. So they're the sort of main two reasons.
How did you find out about ArtCan though?
Instagram.
Was it? Oh, that's good.
It was just I came across ArtCan on Instagram, and then I thought, wow, this looks fantastic, and then I applied.
That's so cool, because often, and actually what I've really loved how organically it's grown, it's through sort of word of mouth actually, I'd say, or an artist knows another artist, says, oh, come and do this and join. So I'm really pleased that our social media presence gives confidence as well. So that's really gratifying. Oh, good. Thank you for that. That was unexpected. Same question for you then, Tere.
Yes, I think I joined at the same period as Marie. I'm not sure if it was in November or December. And the reason why is because before coming to the UK, I've already been 7 years here. I went to visit the studio of a very well-known Chilean artist who's Benjamin Lira. And I showed him all about what I was doing to kind of like receive some advice. And then I said, what would you tell someone who's like actually starting her career? And he said to me something that it kind of like stayed with me, because he said, actually what worked for me in the 80s is not going to work for you, because the world has changed so much and you have so many other like technological possibilities. And he actually made me realize that in the world of nowadays, like maybe the formula that worked for artists in the 80s, that was going to a good art school, doing a couple of years abroad, and then maybe going back to the hometowns and getting into a gallery, it's just a model that's not working anymore, because first of all, like many galleries are just disappearing. because we have other tools to self-promote ourselves.
Yeah.
But then secondly, because technology is just offering us so many opportunities of rethinking what is actually an arts practice. So that's why I guess since I arrived to the UK, both because of that and also I visited the dean of the architecture school of one of the well-known universities in Chile, and he gave me a similar advice in the sense that he said, well, it's very important that you collaborate, because when you collaborate, you'll be able to like reach wider audiences, to have a greater impact. And I guess because I was also doing this master in arts and science at Central St. Martin's when I first arrived to the UK, that it was very experimental and it was very much about collaborating with people from different practices. I kind of like, a strong part of my practice is actually connected to collaboration.
Yeah.
And also because within my research, I'm trying to explore how collaborative practices can maybe push like more sustainable thinking, rather than just kind of like falling into maybe more conceptual art, where I sometimes feel that the ego of the artist is kind of like over the artwork or like the communicational act of engaging with the audience. So I guess that's why I joined ArtCan, because I'm always self-organizing things, and then I felt, well, it's actually really interesting to see that there's other artists that have a similar mentality.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it's the power in numbers, it's the ownership of your own sort of path, and yeah, the ripple effect of the collaboration for me is just, it's always different, and so it always brings something slightly more exciting and a little bit more challenging and a little bit more progressive, and you just feel like you're moving forward because you're doing it alongside other people who are challenging you but also supporting you. And that's I think that is something that's absolutely essential today, especially in today's society, for a creative and for artists. It is very different from the historical sort of perceived tradition of how to function as an artist. So let's move on to sort of like your practice and your sort of processes and your mediums, and we'll stay with you on this one.
Oh, with me?
Yeah. Sorry. I realised I need to actually say names when I'm doing IG lives rather than just looking at people.
Well, I wanted to say hello to Ana Luisa, who's a friend in Hamburg that I think she joined.
Awesome.
Because we collaborated lots of times together. So it's great that she has joined. Well, I think I have a very broad practice, which I find it interesting because some curators and galleries and collectors, they think it's something fantastic, but other people feel a bit overwhelmed with it. But I think it's more about being true to your soul, because as an artist is also like an inner exploration of how you can take the best of your inner soul to like live it in the world. So I think maybe what works for one artist doesn't work for another. I would say that my research is mainly embraced but by the flaneur, or the idea of like just strolling around and getting inspiration. I mix a lot of sociological and anthropological observation within my practice. That's why I did the arts and science course.
Yeah.
I work in diverse media, so I paint, I do printmaking. I had a period where I was working in kind of like art jewelry, but I would say that maybe my strongest part of my practice is more thinking with space in a 3D format and creating like sculptures, installations, and also thinking of the performative element of installations.
Oh, amazing. But I think this goes back to people like going, and people ask me what I am. I was like, I'm an artist. They go, well, what do you do? Or, you know, what medium do you use? And I happen to be a painter, but I don't want that to then put a sort of a definition in their head as to exactly what that means. And I think sometimes we as creatives need to use our work to sort of expand those sort of ideas and sort of preconceptions about specific mediums. And I think we're much stronger and bolder in today's sort of society as creatives to use a traditional medium, but in a slightly more alternative way, or, you know, just actually playing, but having, there's Mel saying here, being true to your soul. It's like whatever is that's coming out to be created, the medium actually doesn't matter in that sort of way. It should actually just have that expression in that sort of place to continue that sort of soul to some extent.
I think that it's interesting what you say regarding that the media doesn't matter, because I did advertising for my BA, because at the beginning my family was not allowed to be an artist, because it was like, oh, you're just going to waste your life and whatever. I think that it kind of like shaped my thinking in a different way, because I work more in a concept. Yeah. And then I think which is a better media, or the best media, I mean, to develop that concept, rather than the other way around.
Yeah,
so
agreed.
There is a commonality in some of the media I work, but I think for me it's more relevant to have a consistency between the media and what I want to communicate, rather than like just kind of like getting stuck into just one simple media.
Yeah.
So I think there's a cohesion in my practice in the subjects I address, or in the kind of like way I work, or in the way I resolve problems, but not necessarily in the media. I just don't want to get stuck in one medium.
Yeah. No, I just think it needs to not define an artist, the medium that they use, in which case you've then got the freedom, as you say, to have that experimental sort of process for whatever it is that you're wanting to do, whatever that sort of that soul that's sort of coming out. So let's go over to Marie, and tell us a bit about your sort of practice and your sort of processes, please.
Yeah, I agree with what Terry is saying about using media and not getting stuck in the one process. And I think that's what I find myself doing. I do love printmaking, and I go from printmaking to painting. And sometimes I think, oh, maybe I should be doing one or the other. But what I think I love about the printmaking process is the accidental sort of mistakes and interesting that happen. So I often try and recreate that in painting, and then being true to which process reflects your idea better as well. I definitely agree with that. But I also do drawing, and I do photography, and even digital sort of enhancement of the work. So I work in quite a variety of ways, and also in a kind of intuitive, but also an intuitive way, but also I kind of look at specific images, but they develop along the way. And my work is more sort of blending sort of spaces and figurative means, in quite abstract pieces of work.
Yeah.
And color is a massive part of my work. So I'm really inspired by artists like Matisse and Vuillard, and the more contemporary artist Irving Anderson. I love his use of lush vegetation and negative space. So negative space is really quite an important part of my work. I'm sort of when I was doing my teaching, I used to go on about negative space to my students all the time, and they used to look at me as if I was kind of crazy. But yeah, and I think, I mean, I've been doing my art practice full time since 2021. I was only dipping in and out because I was in education for quite a long time. So I'm still kind of feeling my way through my practice and experimenting a lot with materials, just to find my ways. But recently I've been sort of looking at my Irish heritage, looking at just family history. So I'm thinking of bringing sort of lots of ideas moving forward with my art practice. But yeah, I agree that Terry's saying, instead of choosing a medium that is true to your ideas, and sometimes that can be hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's not easy. Especially when I think printmaking has got those qualities that's very different to painting. But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Enjoying the processes.
I think it is also the fact that you need to give yourself that time and space to make the mistakes, to experiment with the medium and the materials, so that, because there are times when I think, oh, I'm really going to, this actually is going to just stay as a sketch or a drawing, or just simplify, keep it simple, it'll be beautiful and wonderful. Yeah, as soon as you start going, you suddenly realize that the only way this is really going to sort of come to a conclusion for yourself as an artist, or myself as an artist, is if I actually start painting, or you taking it to another sort of level. And actually that journey just needs to be sort of nurtured and looked after and given the opportunity that it deserves, as opposed to thinking you have to sort of stick with what you thought would be the final sort of result. But then in the same vein, you've then got to know when to stop. So you're like, okay, fine. But then that's the whole beauty of it. It's this sort of experimental wonderfulness, which means that suddenly something does feel finished, and you then want to share that with the world, and then you're on to the next sort of exciting journey and sort of navigation through whatever it is that you're doing. And that's all amazing as well. So yeah, really cool. We have currently been in, it's been August, so ArtCan has been very sort of quiet. We're about to release some new Call for Arts coming up in the autumn and sort of early next year. But maybe if you sort of touch on a couple of things you've done for ArtCan since you've joined, which it's only been half a year almost, so or for half a year. So yeah, Marie, have you sort of engaged with any of the specific exhibitions?
I was in the one at Hansard Studios.
Our anniversary 10 by 10, yeah.
So that was really good, and there's some really interesting talks by some interesting artists there. I really enjoyed that. And I did the pop-up show with it was at JP Morgan.
Oh yes, yes.
I did that as well, which was great. And I've met so many nice artists, so it's been, in this short period of time, I've met so many great artists, which has been fantastic. And I've applied for the home exhibition.
That's a big one for this autumn in later in October.
Yeah, to go and see that. Yeah, it'd be great.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, it's a really, I mean, the programming is ridiculous and exciting and inspiring. I'm really looking forward to next year as well. So oh, it's going to be good. Tere, any that you've sort of been involved with so far?
Well, I was a couple of months collaborating with the team of Elizabeth with the Color and Sound celebration, but it got a bit on hold, so I don't know where that's heading off. But I have one analog photography that's going to be part of the Transparent as a Dragonfly exhibition in Rome.
Yes.
And I'm really excited because I did read the book of the exhibition is inspired in the book of Italo Calvino, Le Città Invisibili, like the Invisible Cities. And I did read the book actually in Italian, and I think it relates a lot to the way I somehow explore situations or cities, in the way that I find it interesting how when the main character is kind of like narrating, it takes you into a void space where everything is imaginable in a way. And I think that I'm happy that I'm being able to show one of my analog photographies, because every time I travel to any city, I always carry my analog camera, and it's part of my own research. And I normally don't exhibit much of this work, so I think that I'm really happy that it's something I'm going to be showcasing in this show.
I think it also, what I love about that particular show is just that it's a collaboration, obviously, with the Arte Borgo and Gallery in Rome. So that has its own sort of essence and sort of stability, which just means that it's going to be fantastic, because, as you say, collaboration is key. But it also is different. It has a different sort of energy and sort of conversation that artists can then actually dip into or out to or apply to with something that might not be perceived as their sort of, normal sort of work or anything like that. And I think that for me is why our diversity of programming is so important, because we don't expect everybody to apply to everything, and in fact, please don't, because we won't be able to manage that. It would just be, it's like I will be rocking in a corner. But that's why it has to have different things that spark those ideas, or have an opportunity that means that you feel like you're moving forward again with how you want to exhibit, or you can make the choices yourself. But then so many other ideas come up, and I end up, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. But yes, next year is going to be a really busy one, and we're hoping that the Colour and Vision as well, especially, that is such a solid sort of vision and structure, and it's beautiful, but we've got to find the right space, I think, and we have to find the right time for it to be done really properly, because I think the ripple effect of that sort of collaborative creation that you and the group of, and Elizabeth especially, have sort of pulled together, and that springboard you've created is amazing, but I really want to make sure we do it properly. So yeah, once we're back from our August break, which is kind of, it's September already, so we're back, we'll be putting in a sort of an online workshop for the whole group, and I'll join that as well, and we'll see where we can take the next steps. So that's really exciting as well. Brilliant. Okay, so Rome obviously up next for you, Tere. So what else is on your horizon at the moment?
Well, it has been quite a busy summer because I had this amazing residency in Northern Ireland together with the Mexican academic Cordelia Rizzo.
Oh, wow.
We did this collaborative textile project at Flower Fields Art Center, and the project has been part of the Linen Biennale. So we did this 20 meters long hug that was at Flower Fields facade with the collaboration of the community. So this exhibition just closed last week, so now I have to work on the Arts Council report.
Yeah.
And I just saw that Sara Davanzo joined. She invited me to a show a couple of weeks ago that was Rewriting for Us the Future, where I had two sculptures. At the moment, I also have other two sculptures at the summer show of the Royal Society of Sculptors. That's going to be at the end of September. And on the 20th of September, I'm going to Palermo to present Neo Norte 4, which is an ongoing exhibition where we're trying to reframe or rethink what would happen if the world would be upside down, and how geopolitics affect to national idiosincrasies, or to the national identities.
Yes.
And so there's a land art installation made by Gandolfo Gabriele David, and we're going to be doing a performance in collaboration with Ana Luisa Rodriguez and Andrea Cantos and Gandolfo. So it's going to be quite an exciting program. And then when I come back in October, I'll do my first official open studio at the Week of Frieze. That's going to be part of the ALL map, which is Latin American artists in London, well, translated.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the first year they launch it. So the idea is to promote different Latin American artists as a side events to Frieze Art Fair. And as part of that week, we also organizing a meet and greets event together with the Chilean embassy. So yeah.
Oh, how vibrant and amazing. Okay, so if anyone is not actually following Tere, then you really need to, because I'm hoping to you will share all of this on social media as well. And
yes, I always do.
I know you do, but I'm just like, it'd be wonderful to follow that through for you. You've got a busy autumn coming up. That's amazing. Congratulations. And obviously let us know if we can help with anything as well, because we'd love to. Marie, what are you up to as well at the moment? Anything coming up?
Busy summer as well, with submissions from having a piece in the RA and then at the Wells Contemporary. So yeah, so
lovely.
I visited those quite a few times. So that was really exciting. This month I'm sort of trying to do my research. Although I've got I'm at the art fair at Cannizzaro Park in Wimbledon, doing the fair there in a few weeks' time. But I really wanted to sort of spend a lot of September researching and really trying to sort of push my practice forward. That's about it, really, for this month. So it's one of those months for reflection. And
which I have to say, just as important, is sort of it gives you that balance and obviously clarity of being able to then sort of take the next step forward with some confidence that you are feeling, sort of grounded in where you're at as an artist and a creative, because, confidence is often the thing that holds people back. So if you're able to give yourself the space and time.
Yeah.
I'd love a bit of space and time. That'd be really nice.
I don't know.
I'm just I can say all these things, so you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that myself. Anyway. I love it. So actually this is now the point where you guys get to ask me a question. So Marie, we'll stay with you. What's your curveball question?
I think what I miss most about when I worked in an amazing art department is sharing good practice. And that, I think, was such a core success of our department when I was working there. And I was wondering, is that something that ArtCan could get involved in, whether it's online, in person, or whatever, sharing, because it really helps artists, you know, things that work, things don't work, or, you know, just sharing what they've done, and whether it's materials wise or anything really. So
yeah, we pandemic, we had a few, well, actually, and during the pandemic, we did a few, I suppose it's almost like CPD type talks, which were really well attended, and brilliant. And obviously, but we had the time to organize them because it was the pandemic. And I think what's been brilliant is just before the summer and about to start now, two of our actual artists have volunteered formally with ArtCan to sort of help behind the scenes administration, programming, and part of that was very much me saying, can we have a talk about the talk series, because we have such knowledge in our amazing international group of artists and our trustees and our supporters, that we should be able to every 6 weeks have a talk about a topic that actually is then just sharing that sort of knowledge. And I'd like it to be practical, as opposed to, I mean, it'd be great if we had inspirational talks as well, because they're lovely, but that's a slightly separate thing. And I think the best practice, the learning, the sharing of knowledge is something I'd really like to just be a consistent aspect of what we provide. So yeah, the answer to that. But I needed help, so we will be reinvigorating that this autumn, and hopefully from maybe even January next year we can get a program together for next year.
Yeah, great, fantastic.
Well, but in a way I do think that the WhatsApp chat, even though it's difficult to follow it because it has so much content, but is a good way as well to share practical knowledge, because people are constantly asking things, and then when someone receives a scam, someone asks, hey, do you think this is a scam or not? And then another person tells them, well, actually it is a scam. And I think that that's really relevant, because nowadays I think that social media opens many doors, but also you have to be a bit more careful sometimes to know whether it's
I think
convenient or not.
With the WhatsApp chat is that day to day, love it, and it gives everybody that sort of instant sort of, you know, acknowledgement and advice, and it's just fantastic. But I'd totally forgotten that we are actually about to set up a formal talk about NFTs. So that will be programmed hopefully later in September. And so it's, I think, some of the topics in the WhatsApp, if I then spot that someone's actually pretty well, you know, au fait with what that particular issue is, then I could then pull them out, because not all the artists are on the WhatsApp group, and we don't expect them to be. So then it makes it more accessible for the whole of the ArtCan community, as opposed to it just being whoever fancies being on the WhatsApp group. And also then sort of delves into more sort of detail, and potentially then we can get a paper on it, or, you know, like a one page which we then put onto the website for the members section, which is going to be launched soon hopefully. And then it's a research sort of portal of all of this sort of data and information and knowledge that we can then just have in one spot, which means that people can dip into it.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Well,
sorry. Yes, next question. Go on, Tere, your turn.
Well, yes, I just noticed, and congratulations that you won the Women Entrepreneur Award. And I was quite surprised that they had a category that was about art exhibitions, because sometimes, and I don't know if this is only my experience or maybe other people experience it as well, but sometimes I feel that you have to always be justifying yourself to people who are not artists, because they kind of diminish you in the sense that, oh, but you don't have a normal life, or your life is like from kindergarten, or you're not serious enough, or what you do is useless, and I sometimes have difficulties explaining to people, well, actually this is a business, and you're like an entrepreneur, and that's the way you work. You have to present a balance sheet at the end of the year, and you have to do your promotion. And being an artist is not only about creating creative or creating pieces in the studio, but there's a lot of like admin involved, especially in the first years. So I felt it was, I think it's great that you have this kind of like organizations that actually are seeing arts as being an or the arts activity as part of an entrepreneurial activity. And I just wanted to know a bit more of the award and how you feel with it, and how did it came through.
Well, Rita, our operations manager and brilliant volunteer and all-round awesomeness, has just decided to sort of apply for some of the awards opportunities for ArtCan, and often it comes down to the individual, which means it's me. And this one, we just sort of filled in the specific sort of submission form and sent it through without really any sort of expectation. We knew there was an art section, but we didn't realize it was going to be specifically arts exhibitions. But in a weird way, that is absolutely what ArtCan is known for the business side of things externally. And I think I've never really defined what I do for ArtCan in business sense, other than it just has to happen. And I think you need that sort of fluidity and organic nature of developing something and creating opportunities, especially because we're totally volunteer run, to just maintain a professionalism and make sure that the opportunities that you're offering are actually got a place within the wider sort of framework of what society is, and be unapologetic about that. I mean, I have never really said, well, I'm really sorry I'm putting on an art exhibition, just in case you thought it was frivolous or whatever. It's like I've just always gone in like going, actually, this is just an essential part of society and you need to come along and support it. So I think there are times, I absolutely recognize that there are times when the arts is seen as almost like a secondary sort of industry, or something that's seen as a luxury or like a nice to have. But I think anybody who sees it like that totally underestimates the actual power and commitment and structure and strength that art gives and creatives give to society. So I will always fight against that sort of naivety of thought that an artist isn't actually important within society. So in a strange way, that just gives me that sort of bottom line there. And if anybody wants to sort of go below that, I'll just actually probably ignore it and prove to them that actually we will continue to do what we're going to do, and we will continue to do it really professionally and with a real ripple effect internationally to make sure that those creative voices have that platform and are able to actually continue to do that counterbalance to what the rest of society is. And I think it's interesting. It happens to be our 10-year anniversary. I don't know whether or not that meant that the organisers was like, oh, let's just celebrate this and give this as an opportunity. But I think the fact we've been doing this for 10 years now, and it has grown to such a sort of strong sort of structure and international structure that people are actually recognizing that outside of the industry. And that, for me, just shows how much hard work and how much commitment all the artists and everybody involved with ArtCan has sort of shown to this path that we're on. And so, yeah, as soon as someone outside of the industry recognizes that and then decides to sort of give the award or wrap it around what it is that we're actually doing, oh, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, we will keep doing that. Yeah. And I think hopefully that will just keep going, because yeah,
no, we might be seeing some change. Really important what you say about like showing that our art's just not a frivolous activity, and it's actually an important part of society, and is what keeps us as a society like thinking forward and bringing new solutions to the world and being creative. Because if there was no creativity, would not have any kind of like invention and like quoting, but also quoting what you said before about having time to make mistakes. I sometimes feel that in the current system we have as a society to function, like there's no space to make mistakes, or it's and when you are creative you need to spend time to make mistakes, you know, and sometimes it feels that the way business models are set up, it's like to reduce any kind of like space or time to make mistakes, which I sometimes feel it actually reduces the scope of how creative thinking actually works.
it reduces the potential, it reduces the aspiration, and it reduces the inspiration, especially if you are in a business where it's not just you. You need to have that flexibility, and you need to have that space to be able to sort of engage and sort of ebb in and out of what it is that you're actually wanting to achieve. And I think creatives are actually making mistakes is just part of our practice. It's just what we do. So actually for us, it's very easy to go, oh, that was a mistake, let's move on. But I think there are other industries and other sort of parts of society where they're not able to actually be unapologetic about a mistake. They sort of get very apologetic and then feel that actually they then need to do something totally different, or it ends up being this quite stifling experience. And it really shouldn't be, because, you know, we all do. It's even if we, you know, make a cup of tea and suddenly, you know, I don't know, spill the water, it's like, it really, that's fine. You know, it's just part of what life is, and it should actually just be part of what life is, but you should learn from it. And I think that's the thing that we will always maintain, a sort of a standard and a professionalism, but also with the understanding and generosity to let people make the mistakes, to actually then develop and grow and learn from it. And I think that it's the main thing, is to keep moving forward and to keep feeling like you're developing with it.
Yeah, great.
Is that all right? Have I answered the questions? I do love them, because it always ends up sort of giving me this extra sort of verb and like, okay, let's keep going, come on. Which you sometimes need. Oh, well, this was our slightly delayed August coffee and chat, and thank you both so much. I will share this and sort of tag you both, so if anybody's watching, you can follow and find out more that's sort of going on. And it is the 10-year anniversary of ArtCan, so please follow ArtCan.org as well. And artist applications are currently open. We've actually, last November was a very busy application process, so we've actually reduced the window. We now are only open for applications for 2 weeks as opposed to a month, which means that it's actually a little bit more manageable. So if you know of an artist who'd like to come and join an international arts community and have an opportunity to exhibit without relying on a gallery giving you those opportunities, and also it's free membership, and we are non-commission and totally non-profit and volunteer run. So come and be part of that societal change, and we would love for you to join us. Though you do have to apply, and we have standards and processes. I'll just make that clear. So yes, thank you both. Have great rest of the weekends, and yeah, we'll see you again really soon.
Thank you for the invitation and for all the hard work.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.